What's something that everyone should know about neuroscience?
Your mind is a tool. Like your brain is a tool. Um, I think actually the most powerful thing is something that Joe Dispenza also teaches, and it's that your neurons, the cells in your brain, are batteries. They are batteries. They when they fire, they use electrical impulses. They are current. Like how I learned it in my very first neuroscience class is that when a neuron cell, a brain cell fires, there's current passing through the cell. And they've made us learn physics because neuroscience is also physics. And when current passes through a wire or a brain cell, there is a magnetic field that expands perpendicular from any flow of current. That's just physics. And so when you think thoughts, you are sending out magnetic fields constantly all the time. So your
Mm.
thoughts and emotions are a magnetic field that's surrounding your head and your body at all times. And so you are constantly outputting a magnetic field, an electromagnetic field that will then attract back to you what you're putting out. And I think that's like, that was something that really blew my mind.
So that leads me to ask, like, what do you think about the multiverse? Is it real?
The multiverse,
Yes.
I so do, I might like not the multiverse. So I believe in all of the different dimensions and parallel universes all occurring right now, if that's what you mean, and like multiple timelines happening, and that we can just shift timelines if we so choose. Is that
Yeah,
kind of what you mean
I do.
by that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's broad either way, but like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know, because I feel like there's a lot of like Hollywood stuff, like even just like media stuff that I always heard like they always try to sprinkle the truth, in front of you and put it in plain sight. Like I like
mm-hmm.
conspiracy theories too, and so I like to
Yeah.
follow I like to follow that little white rabbit, down the hole. But yeah, I just feel like because there's a new Marvel movie, I think it's the Doctor Strange one. It kind of talks about the multiverse, and then there's another movie my friend told me about called Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've
Is
been
that
told by a few people to watch that. I don't really watch anything because I don't have time, but
I feel you.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a trip. I don't know. It just makes you think about like, okay, like, is there some type of knowledge out there that that people are gatekeeping almost that allows them to kind of like manipulate, you know, in this case, timelines or even,
Yeah. Start
I don't
meditating
know.
every single day. Every single day. I have gained superpowers through meditation every single day.
I'm
And
sorry, I
like,
just missed what you just said because Siri
oh,
just decided
okay.
to
Okay.
butt in.
So is there a secret code? I'm not sure. Obviously, there could be something, right? They've tapped into something, but meditation has given me superpowers.
Hmm.
Without like meditation, I mean, I've been meditating for about a year and a half every single day,
Hmm.
and I'm at the point where like I just asked the universe a question a few days ago. I was like, I'm not sure if I should get this next apartment. Like it's gonna be like a lot more money a month, but I
Hmm.
really kind of want to get this apartment. And I was like, you know what, universe, like send me some money right now if I should do this. And then literally a rapper that I met at Whole Foods texts me, asks me to come feature in another one of his songs and pays me like $100 cash within the
What?
next within like the day, like 2 days of me saying that. I'm at the point now where I literally just say things out loud and ask for things, and they kind of just, as long as I don't have blockages,
Hmm.
which shadow work is really important, like shadow work and mirror work um, are really important. Like I definitely feel like I cleared my money block because I'm at the point now where if I just ask for it, as long as it's not like a ton where I think it's unbelievable, because you can't because then you're blocking it from coming to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm like, hey, send me some money, I'm at the point now where I've asked that so many times and it's happened so many times that I just know that's going to happen. Like, I just believe in it, so it
Yeah.
does. Yeah, so if you ask, like, I have a video on TikTok about this, and it's called Our Energetic Vortex. um, when you ask for something, it goes into your energetic vortex, and the only thing keeping you from it is your vibration. All you have to
Mm.
do is be a vibrational match for what you ask for, and it'll come to you. And people like to think that they are, but if it's not coming to you, then you're not, right? There's something
Right.
vibrationally that is off, whether it's your belief in yourself that you don't actually deserve it, which a lot of the case it's that, um, or a shadow, like a shadow blockage that you had. So if mine with money was like, growing up, my parents always said, like, we can't afford this, or we can't afford that, and like that got ingrained into my head, like, I can't afford this, like, no, I need to be cheap, I can't, I need to like be frugal, or I shouldn't splurge on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's all subconscious conditioning is what it is. And like, so really, like, your subconscious mind is what decides what you do and don't have, which is why meditation is so important, because it creates a blank slate for your mind. And then after that, you can kind of really just ask for something from a really clear place. And also, when you get better at meditating, you get better at going into the gap, and then you become one with the consciousness that we were talking about before. Like, you can go into like universal consciousness and just start to download information. So for me, that's kind of what happens now. I literally just meditate, and I'll just get messages, like receive
Yeah,
things, like
that's
rights from
awesome.
or from that.
That's super interesting. Can you tell us more about like, because I know when people hear this, there's some people who may not be ready to, hear information like that. Can
That's totally
you?
fine.
I think so too, and that's what I hope to also expose on this podcast too. Is just just opening the minds of people just to things they may not have heard of before. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like I hear you say shadow work, and a lot of like um, teachers that teach spirituality, or we kind of venture down that path of learning more about being one with the universe. I consider all of it spirituality, of course, but
Yeah.
um, how do you? Because I hear you say that you ask the universe for things, and it just kind of just comes like that, which I think is like I believe it, but I know there's people that I'm like, what is she talking about? Like, how are
Yeah.
you doing that? And you mean you could ask for like $1 million right now and you get it? And so,
No, you couldn't. I At least I couldn't, because I don't believe I have a subconscious blockage to $1 million, right? I don't,
mm,
for something I probably have somewhere, like, what would I do with that money? I couldn't handle that money. I wouldn't even ask for it. I'm actually at the point, and I was on like a date like a year ago with someone, and I literally said, like, I rarely ask for things, because a lot of times they do come, but you never know how they come. You
mm,
never know how they're going to come. So I was actually manifesting like $2,500 to pay for like first and last month's rent or whatever, like, or something like that, last year before I moved here. And what happened was, my apartment called me the couple weeks before I was supposed to move in, and the apartment opening got pushed back a month. So I saved that money. I got the money. I got the money I was manifesting, but at what cost? Because then I didn't have anywhere to live when I moved
yeah,
here. And like, I lived in a hotel, right? So whatever, like, it was fine. I got the money. I got what I asked for. So that's why
mm-hmm,
I really don't ask for things, because you never know how they're going to come. Or if you do ask for things, they need to be specific. But also, I think that it should always be like, what's in the highest good of all. Um, yeah, out of like what we were talking about, out of love.
yeah,
But
okay.
yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
No, you're good.
also, also, I you would have asked me 2 years ago if this was possible, I would have said no. I was skeptical. I was always kind of a skeptical person, right? I'm a scientist. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if that were true, I would have probably been like, that's impossible. No.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's what I find it super awesome about you is that yeah we kind of touched on it earlier, but you bridge the gap between science and spirituality. But that's super dope. That's because like I want to you know more of like kind of that journey of shadow work. Like, what did you have to do in order for you to unblock, that money block that you had? Like, what did you like see a shadow work specialist or because they have those.
They do have those?
They have people who like, I think they call them coaches. Yeah, shadow work coaches.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I know there's shadow work journals and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually reading a book right now called Gene Keys, and
Ooh.
it's really crazy, like really crazy. It's all about like ancient, like yeah, and it's basically like the 64 like amino acids of our DNA, and like it has to do with DNA and like unlocking like certain aspects of our genes. But every single key also has a shadow that you read about and that you have to work through. So it's like not a book you sit down and read, like not a normal book. Like you probably read like one key like every week or something and work through
Ah.
that. Yeah. But for me, basically, like, say using like the money as an example, I sat down and I was just like, okay, why do I not like think I can have like money? And I'm like, well, like, I've always been told like I need to save my money because my parents are both in finance. Like, you need to save your money. You need to do this. You need to like, make smart financial choices, or like they always said to me like, no, we can't afford that, or like that's too expensive. And so then I would ask myself why, and then I'm just like, oh wait, no, like actually there is enough, like money is just energy and there is enough to go around for anyone. And
Mm-hmm.
so then like every time I would think of something, like any belief, if I have a subconscious belief like, oh well, I didn't have money to afford that, or oh well, I didn't have money to afford that, then I just ask myself why. And then like I would just keep asking myself why until I got down to basically like, there's no reason why I shouldn't have money. So like
Mm-hmm.
if I'm like, oh, I can't handle it, I'm like, oh well, why not? I'm like, oh well, because I wouldn't know what to do with the money. I'm like, well, why not? You can always give to charity. And I'm like, oh yeah, like there's always something I could do with it. If I got a like right now, I'm like with my $1 million blockage, I'm like, wait, no, like I could literally just keep the money I needed and then donate it what I didn't need to use right now. Like there's no reason I couldn't handle $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so it's just like I kind of just did shadow work on myself right there. but but yeah, so it's just kind of like that. Like, and there's shadow work. There's podcasts. If you literally just search shadow work on Spotify, like
Mm-hmm.
you will have an abundant number of podcasts to listen to about shadow work. And there's tons of shadow work journals. But my favorite, but like those are all very generalized. And my favorite way to do it is to do it what's specific to you. I mean, you can just kind of Google like shadow work prompts and they'll come up, and then kind of just see how it works and then tailor it to you. Because for me, it always works best when it's super personal. So I'm just in my journal and I'm like, okay, well, what do I want? What's blocking me from it? And then I write down all my beliefs of like what I think is blocking from it. And then you just keep asking yourself why, and you'll realize like, oh shoot, like I have a lot of reasons subconsciously I've been hiding about why I can't have this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's holding you back. It's holding you back. And so when you clear that, then the next time it comes up and you're like, oh, I'm at the store and I would be like, oh, like I shouldn't buy this because it's too expensive. And I'm like, nope, I actually already cleared that block and money comes to me whenever I need it. So I can buy this.
So you don't check
And
your bank account.
I do.
I'm just kidding.
But I will say that I have no problems there at this point
Yeah,
anymore.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So,
I need to get on your program because there's some
yeah.
there's some blockage there that I need to clear up.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's just all energy, right? And I always say like, be careful what you tell yourself, which is why like earlier I was
Mm.
like, I'm not gonna say I have ADHD because I don't. I, I'm like, I truly, like someone yesterday, like I posted a video yesterday and like, yes, I could have worded it differently. It was a little harsh, but um, I just had this realization where no, like I really think I cured myself of the ADHD. And I totally believe that that's possible because with epigenetics and everything, and the fact that your thoughts create your reality, and like we were just talking about, like you can just shift timelines, like that's completely
Mm-hmm.
possible. And I know a lot of my followers are probably like really more science people, so they probably don't like view it that way. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm like, oh no, actually, like I really like when I started meditating every day is when the symptoms started going away. And then like I just
Mm.
realized like the Adderall was actually making me anxious and not helping me anymore. And I was like, okay, let me just stop that and let me just supplement with like something else so that way I don't withdraw, because it does create dependence and then you do feel withdrawal when you stop. And then I was just kind of like, oh wow, like I'm doing much better. And now like literally I went through like some crazy stuff a couple months ago where I remembered like a whole childhood trauma. That was like a month ago. 2 days before my final exam, my neuroscience final exam in my
Uh-huh.
PhD program. And I hadn't even started studying yet. And
Oh
it
wow.
was, yeah, it was a trip, because then I also met an energy healer at the temple I was currently going to.
Uh-huh.
And I believe that's the reason why I was going there. And I had her like literally come to my apartment and do a whole shamanic energy healing. Like she spoke
Yeah.
light language over me, all of
Oh
that.
wow.
Yeah. And she kind of just confirmed everything that I was thinking was going on. She was like, yep, you have energy blockages in those exact spots of your body. Like that is what happened. And that was all 2 days. That was one day before my final that she came to my apartment.
Oh my gosh.
And so how much did I study for that final? Less than any exam I've ever studied for in college. Like I've never not studied that much. And
Really?
I got a 99 on that, like a
Are you
98.
kidding me?
Yeah. And that's a neuroscience PhD final. Like no, it's not multiple choice. Like it's all open, like essay questions. And
Oh my
what I
gosh.
said was, I said, you know, spirit, take the wheel. Work through me right now. And I just kind of knew the answers to everything. I'm at the point where I can kind of just channel whenever I want to. And I'm not special. Like everyone, like a lot of people in my comments a lot of times, like, oh, that's
Uh-huh.
great, you can do that. No, like I firmly believe everyone has the capability to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has the capability to change their life and make it better. It just all starts with a choice. Everything in life is a choice. It's,
Mm.
do you want to do this? Because it's not easy.
Right.
Meditation for 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, it actually like is kind of easy. Like it's literally 20 minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people won't do it. And that's the choice you're making between having the life you want and living the same life you've always lived.
I love the way you put that. It almost sounds like it's just like a hack for life or like a cheat code for life. You know what I mean? To meditate and to really be in tune. And that's why I too have that kind of approach to life where if I'm doing everything holistically to make sure that I'm on point mentally, physically, you know, if I'm doing everything I can to just make sure I'm trying to optimize my, my behavior and just my mindset. If I'm doing everything I can, and I believe that I'm on the right track to living the life that I've always wanted. You know what I mean? And it
Mhm.
sounds like that's kind of what you're saying as well. Is this if you make the choice to, um, if you make the choice to better yourself, that means for me, I think you can't lead from an empty cup, right? And
Mhm.
so when you make the
Exactly.
choice to better yourself, that means you're doing everything you can so you can be fit to serve others. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I always say you can't fill up anyone else's cup if yours is empty. Like you have to fill up your cup before you can fill up other people's. And that's like a really great metaphor. But I'll tell you like another thing that also is really important about like manifesting and creating the life you want is that you are always manifesting. And I think that's another thing that people run into with like, oh, my manifestations aren't coming. Well, you just saying that they're not coming is actually affirming that.
Mm-hmm.
um, you are always manifesting. Like doing a visualization is great and it's helpful and that's getting the momentum going. But if you end that visualization or that journaling session and you go right back into your old thought patterns, you're manifesting the exact opposite. And then now what's going to happen? Like you're sending mixed signals to the universe and now it's
Mm.
all just up to chance. Um, and that's like a really powerful thing about meditation is that even if, okay, because people don't realize, they're like, oh, I can't meditate, but the point of meditation isn't to sit there with a silent mind. The point is to sit there and observe your thoughts so you know what you're telling yourself.
Mm.
Because
Say that
meditation,
again. I think that deserves a retweet right
the
there.
point of meditation is not to sit there and clear your mind and have a blank mind, no thoughts. The point of meditation is to sit and observe your thoughts so that you know what you're telling yourself. So you know what is running through your mind all day and what you're manifesting. So you're going to sit there and view your thoughts, and at first you're going to be like, "Oh my god, like this is why I have anxiety. This is why I'm depressed. This is why I'm like my mind, because you're not your mind. You're not your body. You are the spirit inhabiting those things. Like you're not your brain. Your brain stays here when you die, and your brain is those thoughts that are constantly running through your mind. Because if you have the ability, when you get really good at meditation, to sit there with no thoughts, that just goes to show you you're not your thoughts, right? Because if
Mm-hmm.
you can, and meditation also teaches you that, because you're sitting there watching your thoughts go by, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, I'm not those things. I'm literally watching them go by, and then you realize like what they're doing to you. And so that's why they say like your mind can be your greatest enemy or it can be your greatest ally. So you sit there and you're like, okay, this is what my mind is telling me. Now what do I need to do? What do I need to change? What can I work on to make my life better? So for me, it was a 20-minute law of attraction meditation. That's honestly what I started with. And I just created like a little, it's not a link tree, but it's like a little website with all of these links on my Instagram bio.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a link to all of the meditations that I've like not ever used, but all the meditations that I currently use or like really have liked. So it's my personal meditation playlist on YouTube, and the one that I'm talking about is at the top of it, and it's like law of attraction. It's meditation. It's like the video is 20 minutes. It's not a whole 20-minute meditation. The beginning is an explanation of what you do, but it's kind of a little bit of a hypnosis in the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I started. That's how I started meditating when I first started, was that video. And that one changed my life. It really did make me realize like, oh, like your thoughts are so powerful. And so meditation teaches you to look at your thoughts and change them. So now like I can honestly say, like they say like 95% of your thoughts are just your subconscious mind, like
Mm-hmm.
repeating things throughout the day. Like I really think I have way more control over the thoughts that go through my mind, and that is why I'm able to manifest what I want. Because if I I'm a constant observer. I don't ever think things and not realize I'm thinking them. So if I have a negative thought, I'm like, well, no, let me counteract that with a positive one to neutralize it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't allow myself, or not like, negative and positive, because it's important to like acknowledge negative so that you know what to change to get better. I'm not like saying like the negative doesn't exist, but I'm kind of just looking at it and I'm like, okay, what can I learn from that so that I can become better, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that quote is just to really observe those thoughts, that to not identify yourself with those thoughts, whenever you meditate. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome. I want to wrap it up here in a little bit, but there's a couple more questions that I want to ask you. We talked about meditation, we talked about law of attraction, we talked about neuroscience. Um, what is the most, I guess, valuable information that you can give us about like what neuroscience has taught you? Like, what's something that everyone should know about neuroscience?
That your mind is a tool. Like your brain is a tool. Um, I think actually the most powerful thing is something that Joe Dispenza also teaches, and it's that your neurons, the cells in your brain, are batteries. They are batteries. When they fire, they use electrical impulses. They are current. Like how I learned it in my very first neuroscience class is that when a neuron cell, a brain cell fires, there's current passing through the cell. And they've made us learn physics because neuroscience is also physics. And when current passes through a wire or a brain cell, there is a magnetic field that expands perpendicular from any flow of current. That's just physics. And so when you think thoughts, you are sending out magnetic fields constantly all the time. So your
Mm,
thoughts and emotions are a magnetic field that's surrounding your head and your body at all times. And so you are constantly outputting a magnetic field, an electromagnetic field that will then attract back to you what you're putting out. And I think that's like that was something that really blew my mind, and it definitely explains the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
That your brain cells are literally batteries that send out an electromagnet. Your body and your brain sends out an electromagnetic field at all times, and you can decide what signal you're putting out. And the
It's
more in control you get of that signal, the more in control you get of what you receive back to you in your life.
yeah, it's your aura, right? It's pretty much the aura that you put out. Is that is that pretty much what you're kind of
I
what you're
haven't
saying?
Yeah, I think so. Like I haven't exactly like seen that tie made specifically,
Mm-hmm.
but I could see how that like could be like that connection could be made because the different like energy fields that you're putting out, like the auras are there's an aura of love, there's an aura of different energies like anger and hate. There's like they're colors, but they're also you see them like the energy is in different places in your body as well, which is true. Like I was listening, I think it was Deepak Chopra that was talking about it, and he was saying like when you get a gut feeling, that's because your energy is literally like that's where it is, like your solar plexus,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you're angry, like your palms, like you clench your fists, like the energy moves more peripherally, it's away from your heart.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's in certain areas of your body, like you get hot headed, right? You're not like
Yeah.
centered. Yeah. So I think so. I think that that's I mean there's so much to be done, and I think
Yeah.
that it makes me really excited because I feel like I'm really in a position right now, like I'm going to get this PhD in neuroscience and then have my own lab and just research really cool stuff,
Hell
like
yeah.
I want to look at this stuff. Like I want to start proving all of these types of theories and things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I really believe you can definitely add value to everybody by just what you're researching and just kind of, bridging the gap again between spirituality and, science. I think it's needed and I think it's valuable, honestly. Um, I also noticed that you seem to be very intentional with your words,
Mm.
and I like that because I'm see now I'm trying to be careful with my words. I'm I'm trying to I'm in the process of making sure that whatever sound that vibrates from out of my mouth is something that I definitely want to attract. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, where does that come from? Because I think there's a term that's called NLP. Have you heard of that?
I haven't. I don't
I
think.
think it's called neuro linguistic programming, but it's pretty much talking about, and I probably am butchering it as well, but it's just the power of your words. What you put out is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And see, my blockage behind that, though, whenever I'm like that, I always get met with, oh, you're taking life too literal. You know what I mean? That's my block right there. And I probably shouldn't say it like that, but yeah, that's where I have issues
It's
with
where
that.
you can improve. It's where you can improve.
There you go.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I have a whole bunch of things like that. Like whenever I fell face first down a mountain a few months ago when I was running, and someone was like, "Oh my God," because I have like scars on my arms still, and
Hmm.
like, yeah, I really fell face first down a mountain. And people were like, "Oh my God, like you're injured and stuff," and I was like, "No, no, I'm not injured. I'm healing."
Hmm.
So that's just like yeah, it's the power of intention is so powerful because that is the energy you're putting out, right? Like if you slip up with the words you say, like it's what you intend with those words, right? So I don't think it's so important as like if I say like, and I'm like as an example, like if I say like, oh, I have like this disease, the words I have this disease, like whatever, like they're just words, but it's the intention behind those words. So you're
Hmm.
claiming that, like you are affirming it to yourself. And that is it's the same, like it's the reason that positive affirmations work. So every morning when I get up, I listen to positive affirmations because that's when your brain is in theta state. It's when you can easily program your subconscious mind when your brain's in theta state. And so those are really powerful, and I've seen like the changes that positive affirmations have made in my life. And when you tell yourself, when you say, I have this, or I have that, like, I am injured, I am whatever, that's a negative affirmation. You're telling yourself negative things and you're affirming negative things. You are giving yourself those problems. So for me, when I'm over here, like, oh, like listening to this, like, I am creator, like, I am strong, I am confident, like, I can create the life that I desire or whatever. And I'm like listening to all these things and I'm seeing the positive effects, then don't you think that it works the same way in the negative direction? It absolutely does. I think, yes, Deepak Chopra actually talked about this in one of his studies that he did, where they told patients that they had a syndrome versus patients that they told they were giving treatment, and it's called the nocebo effect, where like the placebo effect is a good thing, where like you're actually getting better even though you're not taking a drug. Placebo effect is real. They actually include the percentage that the placebo effect was in the percent efficacy of a drug, which blew my mind when I learned that. Like depression medications, they include the placebo effect in the percentage that they say it works, because they don't care how it works as long as it's working. So because it does work, your beliefs absolutely can change your body. They do. And so the nocebo effect is when they told people that they have, say, like a doctor diagnosing you with cancer and telling you that you have 6 months to live. That only makes your symptoms worse. And that was proven to be true. The nocebo effect, negative effects based off of a diagnosis or telling, and it's the same thing. Like you're diagnosing yourself, you're affirming it to yourself and claiming it. So be careful what you claim, because you're claiming it and you're only perpetuating that, which is why I'm like, it's really hard for me on TikTok sometimes, because I know a lot of people aren't in that headspace that I'm in. And so when I know that they're just trying to like, they're like defending like their choices or whatever, but I'm just like, stop telling, don't write down in the comments that you have ADHD. Like, don't write that. Like you're claiming it. You're claiming it. Don't claim that. Like why would you want to claim something that's not helping you?
Right.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you've heard of Wayne Dyer, Dr.
Yes.
Wayne Dyer. Yeah, he has a whole book on the power of intention. It's really powerful, and it is the energy you put out, and it's what you will get back. And so I'm careful about my words. It's because I'm careful about my thoughts, and it's careful about, and it's just like I'm just careful about what I claim, is really what it is. So like, yeah, I'm careful about the energy I put out, because I know that it'll come back to me.
I love that. I totally agree with everything you're saying. There's definitely power behind our words, and I think it's super intentional. Like one thing that I'm doing personally for myself is every time, because right now my current job, I work at Starbucks, and so when people come in, I am working on giving them a compliment. Adding value to them first before they because it's weird, because a lot of times people come in and they just, for some reason, they just love to project on the Starbucks baristas. And so I think when they come in and they're met with kind of that positive affirmation, it could definitely change the way they came in, and they definitely can leave a better person or just have better vibrance or energy to them. But yeah, I agree. Like, your words are powerful. They do direct your life, and it's, it all correlates back to your thoughts. You know what I mean? Whatever you speak, it's the underlying tone behind that is definitely where you're at in your headspace. You know what I mean? And so I love that. I love how you brought that up and explained why, you are very intentional with your words.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a video actually on an intention a practice that I was doing for a while. I've been a little out of practice with it because I've been extremely busy. But every morning, like as soon as you wake up, and it's something that I learned from Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you've heard.
I've heard.
Yeah. So how do you expect to get what you want out of your life if you don't ask for it? If you believe that there is some higher power or something, the energy working, like it is always working in your favor, whether you're claiming negative or claiming positive. And so something that I do every morning was like when I wake up, whether I meditate or it's like my sun salutations or whatever exercise I'm doing in the morning to like clear my mind, I will sit down and write down my 5 intentions for the day.
Mm.
And that seriously, like, I noticed, like, when I would write things down, like, in the morning, like, this is what I want to happen today, like, they did happen. And if they didn't specifically happen, like, I was making steps toward those things. So it's just really powerful. And now I'm more in the practice of just kind of like claiming what I want out of every situation. So not necessarily like in the morning, but like I'm on my way to lab and I'm just like, today's going to be a great day in lab. I'm going to get so much done. I'm going to have a great time with my coworkers, with my lab mates. I'm going to have a great meeting with my boss, you know, and then I'm like on my way to the grocery store. I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, it's going to be great. I'm going to get the exact food that I want. I'm going to have a great conversation with the cashier, you know, like start claiming what you want to happen. Like start
Hmm.
out loud, like put it out there, because how can you expect to get what you want out of life if you don't claim it?
Absolutely, yeah. What could you touch on claiming? Like, I mean, you probably said it before, um, but like, are you talking more about the intention? Like, on your way, say I'm driving to Trader Joe's, I'm like, okay, when I go to Trader Joe's right now, I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna, get what I need. I'm, gonna meet somebody, and we're just gonna have a great conversation. And is it more so like the mindset, like that, or are you like verbally saying it, or are you writing it down, or is it a combination of everything?
So with the morning ones, I was writing it down, but no, now I'm more in the practice just because I am really busy. I'm just saying it out loud.
Okay.
I'm in the car, I'm just saying it out loud. I'm just like, hey, you know what? I might even get a little discount. Might even get a little discount when I'm there. Who knows? You
Hey.
know, I cleared that like shot. I'm just like, you know what? It could happen. So why not claim it? Just be like, yeah, you know what, universe, if you do so decide that I can get, like, you know, maybe a little sales happening, you know, I'm going to experience something positive in this store when I walk in. Like,
Hmm.
because I mean, they've even like, there's tons of people, like, they always talk about it. Like, your mind sees what you tell it to see as well.
Hmm.
Like, your subconscious mind will notice what you tell it to notice. Like, if you wake up, and this was like one of my very first videos, and I was like, before you get out of bed every single day, say today is going to be a great day before you even get out of bed, because you are programming your subconscious mind to make it a great day, to look for the great things throughout your day. And so if you're at the store and I'm in my car on the way there, I'm literally like, hey, you know what? Like, this is gonna be a great time. I love grocery shopping. Just go in. Like, I can't wait. Like, just being like positive and being like, this is gonna be great. You know, like something great is gonna happen while I'm in this store. And if you're putting out positivity, you know, and then I'm walking in and I'm just smiling and like, yeah, and then you attract greatness too. Because when you say that, then all of a sudden your vibration is like, your frequency is higher, and then all of a sudden you start attracting great things to you. And that's what I've truly noticed. Like, my friends have always told me I'm so lucky. Like, no, I'm not lucky. There are no coincidences. I
Hmm.
just have really honed in on the vibration that I keep. One of my intentions every morning is that I am a keeper of positive frequency, and
Mm.
that I only attract positive to me. And that's not to say, like, actually, I couldn't even tell you the last time like something really bad happened. Honestly, like,
Really?
bad things don't happen to me anymore. No,
That's
like
awesome.
not at all. Now that I'm thinking about it, no,
Yeah.
they don't. Actually, everything's always working in my favor, and that is 100%
I love that. I love
yeah,
that.
like, if something doesn't necessarily go the way that I wanted it to, which I couldn't even tell you the last time that happened, off the top of my head. Because seriously, everything really does, like, yeah. Um, I know it was meant to be, right? So if it's like, oh, that didn't necessarily happen the way I wanted it to, I'm like, oh, that's because something better is meant for me. And
Mm.
as long as you keep that mindset,
I
then you're
love
staying
that.
with a positive frequency, and something better will come.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna even ask you. I was like, what happens when you have this expectation and then it doesn't happen, and then you just said it right there. It's like it's not meant for me. There's something better, or the
Mm-hmm.
universe has something better for me, and
Yeah, or a
so.
different plan in store, because I also have to know that, like what I said earlier, when I asked for things and I actually got them and it wasn't in my best interest, right? So, like, you have to know that, if you do believe, and I do, that everything is always working in my favor, and I don't exactly get something that I wanted or that I want, then I'm just like, okay, then it either, one, wasn't in the highest good of all, and I care about like everyone's well-being, or two, the timing, like, just not right now, like, it's not meant for me. Because there's always, we're here to learn, right? Our souls, like, that's the reason why we're here, is to learn and
Mm-hmm.
level up, like, on a soul level. And so, like, maybe that's not in your soul contract. Like, maybe you're here to learn something different, you know?
Mm.
And I truly believe that it is better than you, like, life is better than you could ever even imagine it. Like, people ask me what I see for myself like a year from now or 5 years from now, like, what are you going to do after your PhD? I'm not even going to pretend to know. I'm not going to pretend to tell you, because if you would have asked me a year ago if I was going to be on a podcast in a year, like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I'm making, like, videos that are helping a lot of people, and, like, what? Like, I would have not believed it. So just the fact that that much can change in a year, and it's, like, working better than I ever could have dreamed. Like, just manifest your dreams. Like, for me, I just write down, like I always wrote, I am in the PhD program of my dreams, not I am it at this school, right? Because of course I applied to, like, big name schools, you know, like Harvard, not Harvard, no, I didn't, but, like, Stanford or whatever. But, like, now I'm here and I realize, like, absolutely not. Like, there's not a better place for me than here. And, like, the lab I'm in right now is the perfect lab for me, you know? And so I'm kind of just like, oh, I'm realizing that it's best really just to manifest what's best for you and what's in the
Mm.
highest good of all. And that you're on your highest timeline. Like, I'm
Yeah.
on my highest timeline toward my best self.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of what I'm hearing is you making the choice and knowing whether to that it's aligned to your best self and also the good of the universe. And so,
Right.
yeah, a lot of what I'm hearing is that you just have to make those choices and speak those words to get you in alignment with the universe, which ultimately is to manifest, the greater good of,
Mhm.
you know, the universe. You know what I mean? Because I think if you break it down individually, everybody wants pretty much the same thing. If I ask anyone else, everyone wants that security, that financial abundance allows, and everybody wants love, and everyone has the core
Yeah.
needs. And
Hmm.
so when you're operating in alignment with the universe, you are operating with that vibe of putting out like, hey, I want the good for everybody. You know what I mean? And so I
Hmm.
love that for you. I love you have such a great energy to you, and I look forward to everything that you're going to be putting out. Yeah, this has been an awesome conversation. I do have like actually two questions.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm keeping you.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
It's a
Um,
conversation for sure.
I'm curious about. There's a lot of research. I mean, I haven't done like extensive research on it, but cannabis and your brain. What happens exactly, or do you know anything about the connection between, your consciousness when, you're on cannabis? Do you have any input on that?
Yeah. Um, so one, it's a plant, so I'm
Yes.
all here for the plants, you know. Um, I will say, like, I used to smoke a lot. I don't smoke a lot anymore. That's just a personal choice. But I will say that we have cannabis is different, and I'll tell you why it's different. So we have, cannabis. Cannabinoids are the things, like the molecules that cannabis, like, gets into your brain. They're called
Mm-hmm.
cannabinoids. And we actually have a system in our brain and body called the endocannabinoid system. Endo meaning that it originates inside of us. So we already have an endocannabinoid system in place. And they're actually the most widespread receptors in all of our body. So the endocannabinoid system, CB1, cannabinoid 1, and CB2 receptors are expressed, CB2 everywhere in the body, and CB1 like mostly in the brain. But so because they are so widespread, and it's like CB1 is literally like CB1, well, both of them are literally everywhere in your brain. Everywhere in your
Mm-hmm.
brain. They're not specific to an area.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is why they have such widespread effects on they affect, your taste, like your reward system. They affect your thinking. They affect your body. They affect, like they make you thirsty. They affect like your. They affect so many different things about cognition and just you,
Hmm.
and that's why. It's because these receptors are everywhere in your body and your brain. So that's one thing that is really makes cannabis different, is
Hmm.
because we already have a system in place to receive that, and it's just that.
That's interesting. That's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me when I first learned it as well. But that's why it's really being looked at for pain as well. Like a lot of the research going on at the University of Arizona is pain research, and they're really trying to utilize the cannabinoid system to help people with neuropathic pain and chronic pain, because it's really useful. Consciousness, it kind of goes back to, and I agree with you. I mean, I don't know if you even said your opinion, but I think it does open up your consciousness. Like for me, I've definitely had experiences, especially since meditating. Like meditating high is like visual. I actually have had
Yeah,
like
it's a
visuals and
trip.
stuff. Uh-huh. Yeah. And like one of my friends actually just straight up saw this person with pig legs and had like a whole vision. Yeah. So, and I've never heard of that happening, but
Yeah, that
it
haven't
makes sense
happened to me.
if we go back to like kind of what I was talking about consciousness earlier, and it being like the complexity of the neural firing pattern, and the more connections making means that you have room for like more complexity of firing. If you think about it, like since these receptors are everywhere in your brain, you're activating everywhere in your brain when you're high.
Oh.
And so, I mean, just connecting dots here, if we are agreeing with the theory earlier where like complexity of firing patterns increasing means increased consciousness, then that means that the increasing, like, that means that, yeah, I mean, it could increase consciousness because you have more ability to have more neuronal firing because you have activation everywhere. But also the endocannabinoid system is kind of funky because the molecules travel in reverse direction. Like they get released out of the neuron and they travel up and bind to the same. It's really a complicated system, and there is a lot of inhibition that happens as well, but complicated means complex, and the theory was talking about complexity of firing. And so I think there's definitely research to be done on it. I haven't seen any on consciousness with
Hmm.
marijuana. Like that could just be because I haven't really necessarily looked for it. Um, but I would, just off of like personal experience, say that it
Hmm.
does, and kind of just thinking out loud that there could be science behind it. But that's something that I could look into for sure and like make some TikToks about, definitely.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Cause for me, like, I don't do it as much as I used to, like when I was in high school, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I do, um, now that I, quote unquote, like, had my spiritual awakening,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like whenever I do it, it's different. Like I feel like it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's levels to it whenever you are, like asleep, I guess, versus awakened. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
but it's definitely interesting, and I just thought I'd ask you because you're a neuroscientist.
Yeah, no, it's actually funny. I completely agree with you because I mean, I definitely like don't smoke as much anymore since like back when whatever, but now when I do, yeah, it's actually really funny because I had an experience where I was thinking something and I literally laughed out loud and I talked back to myself and I was like, "Oh, this is high, Emily. This is funny." And it was like my consciousness was separate from my high self.
Yeah.
I was like talking to my high self and I was like, oh, like my high self is so funny. Like, oh, I'm really hyping myself up right now. And it was so weird. It was, yeah, I was like, I had much more awareness of what the
Hmm.
high was doing and like what I was able to do with it. And like, actually, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it's a strange thing because for me, like now, whenever like, because now when I get high, it's more like I'm in almost a meditative state where like these different emotions come up,
Mhm.
and I'm like, it almost I can feel it in my body in different places in my body. It's almost like either childhood trauma that comes up,
Yeah.
or even like the just the beauty of life also you experience. Like obviously when you eat, when you're high, everything tastes really good, right? But like
Mhm.
now, like I'm in a place where like I'm observing these thoughts, and it's just like you said, like you're talking to your high self
Yeah.
versus it's you become like the observer of it. It's a super strange thing that happens, um, but yeah, I agree with you. It's a weird thing, and I'm curious to see if there's going to be any more research on it, which I'm sure there is.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to look at like the molecular changes, like either on a DNA level or on a genetic level of what happens when you do go through a spiritual awakening. Because obviously it causes changes. Like for me, I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped doing a lot of things that I was doing just because I didn't even want to anymore. It wasn't like because I was just like, it wasn't like because I shouldn't. It was just like, I don't want those things anymore. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
there, and like experiencing drugs differently and all that. It's like something definitely is different.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? I don't know if anyone knows.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to find out, right? We're gonna have to see what happens, because I think
Yeah.
there's gonna be more and more people like yourself that come out and like, hey, this is what happens when you do this, and it connects to this spiritual, practice or school of thought. And so, even myself, like for me, like I love to uh, let me put it this way. I'm a consciousness enthusiast. So anything that I come across content wise, when it pertains to consciousness, I'm like, oh, let me look at what this has to say, or let me look at what they're trying to teach or explain. And so I find consciousness it's just we barely have tapped the surface of it. You know what I mean? Like we still don't know where the hell this like who we are, this ability to do this comes from. And so
Hmm.
I look forward to like just more stuff coming out on it. Um, but one final question before I let you go. Again, this has been great, and I've had a ton of fun. Um, one last question: what is the meaning or purpose to life?
I think that the purpose of life is to learn and grow and level up on a soul level
Mm-hmm.
because this life is short and it's just like a little snapshot of like this like we're just making a little earth trip for our souls. It was just a little earth trip. And I think that we're here definitely to spread love and light. At least I know that's my purpose here is to spread love and light and elevate the vibration of the planet. To enlighten others and help other people and fill them with love and light. So because butterfly effect, then they go off and do the same thing too. Um, so I think that that's the purpose. Spread love, be love, and just learn and listen.
Spread love, be love, and just to learn and listen. I love that. I agree with you 100%. Thank you again for coming on. Where can people find you? And what are you working on right now?
People can find me on TikTok at M on the Brain and on Instagram at Emily17 McDonald and on YouTube at M on the Brain. I don't have any huge videos yet. They're coming, but I do have lots of playlists on YouTube currently that are really great resources, like really great life-changing resources if you want to do any of the things we've talked about, listening to frequencies, affirmations, all of those things. They're all on my YouTube. But I do want to just throw in like one little more thing about consciousness and like the complexity of it because I don't want you to think that I view it as the brain because I don't view it as the brain. I just think that maybe if there's more complexity and more connections, then the soul has more avenues to present itself through. and that allows for more consciousness to be materialized. I think it's
Mhm.
always there. I just think that it's being blocked from coming through in the material world. So, access your theta state, do your affirmations, listen to my videos. You got this. We
Yes.
got this.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Emily. And